In the Excel column in this month's magazine, I'm having a look at printing in Excel. I'm having a look at some of the options that are available for you when you go to print a worksheet. Now I've got quite a large worksheet here and I'm going to show you the basics of printing that worksheet. Let's click Print Preview to see what our current settings are going to give us. I'm going to zoom out here. So I've got, and I can read down here, I've got a 6-page printout happening here. I'm printing in landscape. The paper is wider than it is tall, and if I click the next button I can step through to see what each page of this printout is going to look like. I have an option here which is the setup menu. I can click it. It's the same option as I get when I choose File Page Setup, but there are a couple of things that I can't do from that particular dialog that I can do from this one, and one of them is this rows to repeat at top option. So I tend to probably use the page setup option in preference to the one in the print preview just because of that. Let's work through this dialog. The Page tab gives you the option of printing in portrait or landscape. Portrait is, of course, taller than it is wide, and so this worksheet in particular, well, it's actually still only going to print on 6 pages, so it just prints looking a little bit different on portrait paper as it will on landscape. But you may choose portrait if your worksheet is taller than it is wide. You might use landscape if it's the other way around. I prefer to use landscape, so I'm going to select that. At the moment my printout is happening at 100% of what Excel calls normal size. So my worksheet is printing pretty much as I see it on the screen. I can adjust it, so I could print it at, for example, 50% of normal size, and you'll see that it's scrunched up now. It's printing in half the space. In actual fact, this time it's only going to take 2 pages to print. It's only printing 1 page at the top of the worksheet and 1 page below it is all it needs to print at 50% of normal size. The other option that I have is to use a Fit To option. This allows me to specify certain things about how I want the Excel to shrink my document. Let's do 1 page wide by 1 page tall. Now that is effectively saying to Excel, I want you to print this worksheet on a single sheet of paper. So it's going to be significantly smaller still than the 50%. If I zoom in and out, as you can see, this is really quite small. It's going to be very difficult to read. In actual fact, you can tell by this, it's telling me it's 41%, so that is quite a bit less than the 50% that we were using previously. Now I can come in here too and I can say, okay, well that was too small, but I don't want it to go more than 2 pages wide. So I'd like to see it a little bit more readable fashion. So I'm going to say fit to 2 pages wide, but I don't know how many pages tall that's going to make it. I can't make that calculation, and I shouldn't have to. So the solution to that is to click in this dialog area here and just click the delete button. So I'm saying to Excel, make it 2 pages wide, and you work out how tall that is going to need it to be to fit. And Excel will be as good as its word. It will be 2 pages wide, and this is going to be 3 pages tall because that's what's needed to print this worksheet. 3 pages tall, 2 pages wide. Now in a similar manner I could also tell Excel how tall I want it to be. For example, I could say in other circumstances I want it to be 2 pages tall, and you tell me how many pages wide that's going to need to be to fit within the 2 pages tall limit that I want. So you can configure it as you want using these options. I'm just going to go back to 100% for now. The paper size allows you to set the paper size, and of course in Australia we use A4 paper, so you should be setting that to A4. The margins option allows you to configure the margins on the page. The top margin, header, right, footer, bottom, left, etc. There's actually a simpler way of doing that as I'm about to show you. But one of the things that you can't do in terms of margin settings this other way is to set it horizontally and vertically on the page. Now this allows you to center, for example, a very small worksheet more attractively on the page. You might center it horizontally but perhaps not vertically, or you could use either or of these options as you prefer. As for the margins, while this is fairly self-explanatory, this way is much easier. In the print preview mode, you can click the margins button and that turns on the margins for you. So this is the top margin, header margins are all visible here. And so as you can see, this document doesn't even have a header. So we can squeeze these margins up considerably and get more information on a page. I can squeeze the footer margins up too because I don't need those because I don't even have a footer. Don't have any text there. And if you want to tweak a little bit of extra room, you could also change the margin on this is the left margin, this marker here, sorry, the right margin on the page, but you can also see the column margin. So for example, if you wanted to make this column narrower, you could do that. You would of course want to make sure that that didn't impact the text that was in that column so that you perhaps couldn't read it, but in some circumstances it may not be an important column, so you may not mind not being able to read all that text, for example. But you can change your column widths as well as the margins on the page, and that's just done by clicking this margins button, which turns these markers, draggable markers, on and off. Let's go back into our page setup dialog. Header and footer allows you to configure a header and a footer for your document. Headers print at the top of every page, footers print at the bottom of every page. There are some preset headers that you can use. For example, this one selects the current sheet name. It's called customers, so this would put the sheet name at the top of the document. This is the information that is entered in the information for this particular program. It's owned by HTTP Design, so this would print the company name at the top of the worksheet. This is the worksheet name. It's called Contacts XLS. And this is page 1 of the worksheet. It could be printed as page 1 of 2 pages, page 1 of 6 pages, or just plain page numbers if you prefer. So there's some preset options that you can use. You can also use the custom header option, which allows you to specify what the header is going to look like a bit more to your own personal settings. Let's click custom header. Custom footer looks exactly the same as this one, only it prints at the bottom of the page, not the top. These are the buttons that you can use to put text into the area, preset pieces of text. For example, this one adds the file name and path, file name. The one next door to it adds just the file name. And this is the left section of the page, so this will appear over the left of the worksheet. To center something in the middle of the worksheet, you click it in the center area. On the right, you can add things to the right. So we might put in date and time on the right. And I could just type information in here too. I can just call this Helen Bradley to identify that this was a worksheet that I created. Whatever you want to do, you can do in here. Let's click OK, and let's preview it so that we can see. As you can see at the top here now is our header information, Contacts XLS, the file name, my name, and the date and time that this is being printed at. Because we now have these headers, we may want to allow a bit more room for the header, so I've just actually brought the header area down a little bit, the margin, so that there's a bit more room for the header to sit above the worksheet itself. Now let's have a look at the Sheet tab. The Sheet tab, this has one area that you can't get to from the print preview, which is this rows to repeat at top and columns to repeat at left. Let's have a look at the problem and then let's see how these help solve it. Let's do a print preview and I'm going to zoom out. This is the first sheet of 6 sheets. This is the second sheet, and as you can see, the headings which read, just going here, company name, print, first name, last name, contact title, etc. They don't appear on the second page of the printout, and they don't appear on the third page either. So that makes these pages a little less easy to understand because there are no column headings. The tool in this dialog, this rows to repeat at top, allows you to configure this particular row 1 as appearing on every single sheet of your printout, so that the headings effectively for each column are repeated so that you can read. You can pick up any sheet of this printed worksheet and understand what data it is that you're seeing. Let's click here to collapse this dialog. I'm going to select this row as being the row I want to repeat at the top of every page of my printed spreadsheet. Click this button to re-display the dialog, and as you can see, it uses a very interesting format, $1:$1, but that's telling Excel to repeat this row at the top of every single printed page. Let's have a look at the result. Page 1 of the worksheet, page 2, now it has those titles, page 3 has the titles, page 4, page 5 and page 6 all have titles on them, making them just that much easier to identify what sort of information is contained in that printout. Also in the Sheet tab is the ability to print grid lines, which are the horizontal and vertical grid lines around each of the cells, and row and column headings. Now this is not to be confused with the rows to repeat at top. What row and column headings are is the letters A, B, C, D, E and the row numbers 1 through whatever on the worksheet. We've got grid lines and row and column headings showing, so let's see the difference. And as you can see here, the column letters and the row numbers are appearing on this spreadsheet. You can't see the grid lines in this instance because of the way that the worksheet has been formatted, but if this were not formatted, you would see horizontal and vertical lines marking out each cell on the worksheet. I'm going to turn those off for now. The other option you have here is the page order. You can print your worksheet either down the left hand side and then over and over and over according to how wide the worksheet is, or you can go the other way and print across and then down. And you would do this, you would set this according to how your data is best read. When you pick it up out of the printer, do you want to read across or do you want to read down? Where's the most information most of the time going to be needed? So configure this to one or other of the options to suit your own preferences. If you don't have a preference, just leave it where it is. Okay, let's get out of this dialog and let's have a quick look at views. Views are a way of saving printer setups. So I've got a couple of views set up already. Let's have a look at them. View custom views, and I'm going to choose the one with print names only. Now when I preview this worksheet, only columns A, B, C and D are being printed. As you can see as I work through it, it's only 2 pages long, this printout, but it's been configured so that there is a print area that prints only columns A, B and C and D of this worksheet. I have a different view that prints everything. Let's print preview this, and as you can see now we're printing the entire worksheet. Column and row headings have been set up so that it will print A, B, C, D, etc. This is an old view that I had created. Let's create our own view now. Let's go in and set up our rows to repeat at top, because that's a nice sensible thing to do. We won't do grid lines and we won't do row and column headings, but we might add our custom footer. Let's just see, yep, oh no. Let's put in the footer that we had previously, which is a file name, sorry, a header that we had previously. Helen Bradley. And here we're going to put in date and time. So here's our custom settings, and let's save this as a view, custom views. We'll call add, and we'll call this custom header. And we're only interested in the print settings part of it being saved. So now let's preview this. As you can see, it's going to print this row 1 on every single worksheet, and it's set up to print the whole worksheet. Nothing too magical about that. Here's where the magic comes in. View custom views. Let's print only the names now. Click on this. All the print settings have now been changed so that row and column headings now print, and only columns A to D are printing. So we could just press the print button and that version of our document would be printed onto the printer. If we want to revert to the settings that we have previously created, the ones we just created a couple of minutes ago, view custom views, let's take custom header, show. And now let's print preview it, and as you can see the header has been saved. This repeated first row on every worksheet has been saved, and various other options as well. So if you have a worksheet that you need to print for different people at different times with different printer settings, creating a view for each of those settings makes it very, very simple to quickly print out your worksheet. You just go View, Custom Views, grab the view you want, and press the print button. That's some of the options that you have for printing in Excel. There are some other options that I discuss in the magazine, in particular using the camera tool to take a picture of an Excel worksheet so that you can, for example, print excerpts from multiple sheets on a single sheet of paper, but you can read about those in the magazine. This is the basics, however, of printing worksheets in Microsoft Excel.